They stood on my doorstep like abandoned puppies, their designer clothes wrinkled from the cross-country flight. Mum's mascara had started to run, and Dad's shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. 20 years of silence, and now here they were, waiting for me to save them. I'm Morgan, and the last time I saw my parents, they were explaining why my college fund had mysteriously vanished into my brother's failing tech startup. Simon has real potential, Mum had said, smoothing her silk blouse. You're smart enough to get scholarships. Besides, you'll probably just get married anyway. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled and made a promise to myself that day. Now, watching them fidget outside my penthouse apartment, that promise felt warm in my chest, like aged whiskey. I took my time walking to the door, heels clicking against marble floors. The sound of success. "Morgan, sweetheart," Mum started as soon as I opened the door. Her voice cracked. We need your help." "Do you have an appointment?" I asked, checking my watch. The same Cartier I'd bought after closing my first $1 million deal. "An appointment," Dad's face reddened. "We're your parents. And this is my office hours. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. I held the door wider. "But please, come in. We can discuss whatever's so urgent that you tracked down my address after 2 decades of radio silence." They shuffled in, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Mom's eyes lingered on the awards lining my walls, the magazines with my face on the covers. Tech's rising star. 40 under 40. The future of education. "Where's Simon?" I asked, gesturing to my cream leather sofa. I assumed this would be a full family reunion. "He's unavailable," Dad muttered, lowering himself onto the edge of the cushion. "Morgan, the house is in foreclosure. We've tried everything but the loans." "Which loans?" I interrupted, sitting across from them in my executive chair. The same position I took during negotiations. Mum burst into tears. "The ones we took out for Simon's projects. And then there were the gambling debts. We thought he'd grown out of that, but..." I pulled out my phone, checking the time again. "So, let me understand this correctly. You're here because the golden child burned through his college fund, my college fund, and now your retirement. And you want what, exactly?" "We need help," Dad said, his pride visibly crumbling. "Just until Simon's new app takes off. He's close to a breakthrough." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound echoed off the walls, sharp and cold as winter rain. "A breakthrough? Like the social media platform that crashed? Or the cryptocurrency thing that the SEC investigated?" "You don't understand," Mum pleaded. "He's under so much pressure." "No, you don't understand." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. I lived on ramen and coffee while building my first company. I watched you post proud Facebook updates about Simon's entrepreneurial spirit while he burned through cash like kindling." Dad stood up suddenly. "We did what we thought was best. A daughter's place." "Is wherever she damn well puts herself," I finished. "And right now, my place is exactly where I want to be. Successful, independent, and apparently your last hope." My phone buzzed. The reminder for my actual meeting. Lunch with Alina, my best friend since the scholarship days. "I'll think about it," I said, standing. "Leave your contact information with my assistant and a detailed list of exactly how much you need." "But where are we supposed to go?" Mom's voice cracked again. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder, the one I'd been adding to for years, labelled Henderson Family Matters in crisp type. "There's a Marriott downtown. I'll have my assistant book you a room." I smiled the same smile I'd given them 20 years ago. "Don't worry about the cost. Consider it a down payment on our new arrangement." "Arrangement?" Dad's face darkened. "Of course." I opened the folder. "You see, I made you a promise 20 years ago. Now it's your turn to make some promises to me." Mum started crying harder. Dad's hands clenched into fists, but they didn't move toward the door. They couldn't. They were trapped by the same thing that had trapped me all those years ago, desperate need and no other options. I picked up my phone to text Alina. She'd want to hear about this in person. After all, she'd helped me plan for this day since we were freshmen, sharing a cramped dorm room and dreams of revenge served cold. "You look amazing," Alina said, sliding into our usual booth at Terrazzo. "That's your power suit, isn't it? The one you wore to close the Microsoft deal." I had a feeling I'd need armor today. I signalled the waiter for my usual martini. They showed up looking exactly like I imagined, desperate and entitled at the same time. And Simon wasn't there. Of course not. Probably hiding from his bookies again. I smoothed my napkin. You should have seen their faces when I mentioned the Marriott. Like I'd suggested they sleep in a dumpster. The waiter arrived with our drinks. Alina raised her glass. To Karma finally showing up for work. She's late, but she brought receipts. I took a sip and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Mom already. Want to hear the best part? They don't even know I bought their mortgage 6 months ago. Alina nearly choked on her wine. You didn't. Through a shell company. Miguel helped set it up when we heard Simon's latest venture was tanking. I knew it was just a matter of time. You're terrifying sometimes, you know that? I learned from the best. I smiled at her. Remember when you found me crying in the library during finals week? I couldn't afford the textbook and you photocopied the whole thing, page by page. Alina reached across the table and squeezed my hand. But this isn't about books anymore, Morgan. What exactly are you planning? My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. They have to sign a contract, I said, letting the call go to voicemail. Miguel's drawing it up now, full admission of what they did, in writing. Simon has to repay my college fund with interest, and they have to publicly acknowledge that everything they did was wrong. They'll never sign it. They will when they realise the alternative is homelessness. I finished my martini. I'm not just taking their house, Alina. I'm taking their story. The waiter brought our usual orders, Caesar salad for her, steak for me. I'd earned the right to eat whatever I wanted. Morgan, Alina's therapist voice crept in. Just promise me you won't lose yourself in this. Revenge can be like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm not drinking anything except top-shelf vodka. My phone buzzed again. Excuse me, I should probably take this before they call the police. I stepped outside onto the restaurant's terrace. Hello, Mother. We've been trying to reach you for hours. Her voice was shrill. The hotel is fine, but we need to discuss this now. Your father's blood pressure is not my concern. I cut in. Neither is your comfort. You'll have my terms tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp, my office. Terms? We're your parents, not some business deal. Really? Because I distinctly remember you treating my future like a business deal. How much did Simon's first startup cost again? 300,000. Silence on the line. That's what I thought. 9 a.m. Don't be late. I hung up and walked back to our table. Alina was picking at her salad, concern etched on her face. Don't give me that look, I said, cutting into my steak. They made their choices. Now they get to live with them. And Simon? What happens when he shows up? Oh, he will, probably thinking he can charm his way out of this, like always. I smiled, remembering something. You know what Mom said when I got that scholarship to MIT? Don't get too excited. Technical schools are so unfeminine. And now you own a tech education empire. Alina raised her glass again. To unfeminine success. My phone lit up with a text. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Hey, sis. Heard you're playing hardball with Mom and Dad. Can we talk? I showed Alina the message. She shook her head. Don't answer. He's trying to get ahead of whatever you're planning. Oh, I know, I typed quickly. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. Another buzz. Come on, Morgan. We're family. I put the phone away and focused on my lunch. Family, I said to Alina. is about to learn a very expensive lesson about consequences. And what if they actually apologise? What if they're genuinely sorry? I thought about the folder on my desk, about the years of collecting evidence, tracking their financial mistakes, building my case piece by piece. Sorry doesn't pay back student loans, I said finally. Sorry doesn't unbreak promises. Tomorrow, they don't get to be sorry, they get to be accountable. Alina nodded slowly. Just remember, the best revenge is success, I finished. And trust me, by the time I'm done, everyone will know exactly how successful I am. They arrived at 9:15. Of course they did. Punctuality was never their strong suit, unless Simon had a pitch meeting. Miguel was already waiting in my conference room, documents spread across the polished mahogany table. He stood when my parents walked in, professional smile firmly in place. "Where's your brother?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Here." Simon's voice came from the doorway. He looked expensive but rumpled, like everything else they'd invested in. Designer stubble couldn't hide the dark circles under his eyes. "Wonderful. Now we can begin." I nodded to Miguel. "Please explain the terms." Miguel cleared his throat. "The agreement is straightforward. Ms. Henderson will assume responsibility for the outstanding mortgage and transfer the property title to her name. In exchange—" "Transfer the title?" Dad interrupted. "You want us to give you our house?" "Your house?" I closed my laptop. "You mean the house that's 3 months from foreclosure? The house you mortgaged to death funding Simon's disasters? They were investments," Simon snapped. "At least I tried to build something." "And I didn't." I stood slowly. "Tell me, brother, what exactly did you build with my college fund?" Mum started to speak, but Miguel raised his hand. "Please, let me finish. The terms include a full repayment schedule for the original college fund, adjusted for inflation. Additionally, there will be a public statement—" "Absolutely not." Dad's face was turning purple. "We're not airing family business in public." "You already did that," I said quietly. "Every time you bragged about Simon's potential while pretending I didn't exist. Every Facebook post about his entrepreneurial spirit while I worked night shifts at the campus library." "That's not fair," Mum whispered. "We always loved you." "Love doesn't pay tuition." I pushed a stack of papers across the table. "Here's your choice. Sign these or vacate the property in 7 days. Simon laughed sharply. "You can't do that. The bank already approved the transfer." Miguel slid another document forward. "Your sister acquired the mortgage 6 months ago through her holding company." The silence was delicious. I watched it sink in. They weren't begging a stranger for help. They'd already been in my power for months. "You planned this," Simon said, his voice hollow. "You've been waiting for us to fail." "No, I've been waiting for you to face consequences. There's a difference." I turned to Miguel. "Show them the trust fund documents." He produced another folder. "We also discovered some irregularities regarding your grandmother's estate." Mom went pale. "That's not... You can't prove..." "Actually, we can. Grandmother was very thorough with her paperwork. The trust fund she left me, the one you forgot to mention, it's all documented. Every penny you redirected to Simon's second startup." "We had to," Mom burst out. "He needed the capital and you were doing fine on your own." "Fine?" I slammed my hand on the table. "I was sleeping in my car between shifts. I was taking cold showers at the gym because I couldn't afford utilities. I was fine because I had no choice." Simon stood up suddenly, sending his chair crashing backward. "You want to destroy this family to feed your ego? Fine. I'm out." "Sit down," I said coldly. "You're not going anywhere until you sign." "Or what?" "Or I press charges for the credit cards you opened in Dad's name." I watched his face crumple. "Yes, I know about those too. Miguel is very thorough." Dad turned to Simon. "What is she talking about?" I was going to pay them off." "With what?" I asked. "Your breakthrough app? Your crypto scheme? Face it, Simon, you're not an entrepreneur. You're a con artist who's been living off our parents' guilt." Morgan, please. Mum reached for my hand. I pulled away. Sign the papers, all of them, or tomorrow you're all homeless and Simon's facing fraud charges. Miguel quietly placed pens in front of each of them. The only sound was Mum's muffled sobbing. Simon signed first, practically tearing the paper. Dad followed, his hands shaking. Mum just stared at the documents. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, and now you're going to make it right. I pushed the pen closer. Sign. She signed, her tears falling on the paper. Miguel quickly collected everything, nodding to me before leaving the room. You'll receive copies by courier this afternoon, I said, standing. You can stay in the house for now. As my tenants, rent's due on the 1st. You're really going to make your parents pay rent? Simon sneered. I walked to the door and held it open. No, Simon, I'm going to make them pay attention. They filed out one by one, shoulders slumped, finally carrying the weight I'd been bearing for 20 years. My assistant appeared with a fresh coffee. Your next meeting is in 10 minutes. Should I reschedule? No, I said, watching my family shuffle toward the elevators. I think I'm just getting started. You've got a visitor, my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. It's your brother. I checked the security feed. Simon stood in the lobby, looking more dishevelled than this morning. Send him up. He burst through my office door without knocking. We need to talk. About what? The credit card fraud? The gambling debts? Or maybe grandmother's trust fund? About what you're really doing. He collapsed into a chair. This isn't about money. You want to punish them. Interesting theory. I kept typing on my laptop. Why are you here, Simon? Because... He ran his hands through his hair. Because you're right, okay? About everything. The pressure, the expectations. I never wanted any of it. I finally looked at him. Yet you took everything they offered, including my future. I was 18. They told me it was the right thing, that you'd be fine, that I had to carry on the family name. His voice cracked. Do you remember that science fair in 10th grade? When you cheated? I closed my laptop. When I caught you copying Jason Miller's project the night before? And you told Mom and Dad. And they told me to stop being jealous of your success. The memory still stung. That's when I knew, you know, that nothing I did would ever matter as much as your potential. Simon leaned forward. I didn't ask for that. Do you know what it's like? Having them pin everything on you? Every dream they never achieved, every ambition they couldn't fulfill. Poor Simon, I said coldly, crushed under the weight of all that privilege. That's not what He stood up and paced. Look, I found something in Dad's study when I was cleaning out some files. He pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. Inside was a check stub and a handwritten note. My grandmother's handwriting. I recognised it immediately. For Morgan, so she never has to beg a man. Where did you get this? My hands shook as I read it. There's more. Simon wouldn't meet my eyes. Bank statements, transfer records, they didn't just take your college fund. They've been hiding grandmother's money for years. She left you everything, Morgan. The house, the investments, all of it. The room seemed to tilt. Get out! Morgan, please, I'm trying to make this right. Now you want to make it right? I stood up, fury rising in my throat. After 20 years, after watching me struggle while you burned through my inheritance, I didn't know. He slammed his hand on my desk. They never told me about the trust fund. I thought the money was theirs to give. My phone buzzed. Alina. I ignored it. Why are you showing me this now? Because I'm tired. He slumped back into the chair. Tired of pretending to be something I'm not. Tired of disappointing them. Tired of being the reason you hate us all. I don't hate you, Simon. I sat back down. I just stopped expecting anything from you. Yeah, well, join the club. He laughed bitterly. You know what Dad said when my last startup failed? At least Morgan won't be around to see you embarrass us again. Something cold settled in my stomach. When was this? Last month, right before... He trailed off. Before what? Before I took his credit cards, Simon's voice was barely a whisper. I was desperate. The gambling debts. They were going to hurt me, Morgan. Really hurt me. I pressed the intercom. Cancel my afternoon meetings. Morgan, shut up and listen. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Miguel, remember those documents we found? I need you to dig deeper, much deeper, and Simon's going to help you. Simon's head snapped up. What? You want to make this right? Start talking. Every account, every transaction, every lie they ever told about grandmother's estate. I looked him straight in the eyes. Help me bury them or go down with them. Your choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, there's a safety deposit box. Mom's name, but grandmother's signature. I found the key when I was looking for cash. Text Miguel the details. I stood up. And Simon, if you're playing me, I'm not. He got up slowly. For once in my life, I'm choosing the right side. As he reached the door, he turned back. I am sorry, you know, for everything. Sorry doesn't fix the past, I said. But the truth might help with the future. After he left, I picked up my grandmother's note again. The paper felt like a match in my hands, ready to light a fire that would burn everything down. I texted Alina. Found the smoking gun. Want to watch me pull the trigger? Her response came quickly. Just make sure you're aiming at the right target. I smiled, tucking the note into my folder. The target was clear now, and it was much bigger than I'd initially planned. You want me to what? Elise Tucker stared at me across her desk at the Tribune, her reporter's instincts clearly firing on all cylinders. Write the story, I repeated, sliding the folder across to her. Every document is verified, every transaction tracked. 20 years of systematic financial abuse, all wrapped up in a neat little package. She flipped through the papers, her eyes widening. This is comprehensive. But why me? We weren't exactly friends in high school. Because you were the only one who called them out back then. I leaned forward. Remember when you wrote that piece for the school paper about gender bias in academic support? The one that got me suspended? She smiled wryly. Yeah, I remember. Your parents were particularly vocal about my radical feminist agenda. Exactly. So who better to tell this story? I pulled out my grandmother's note. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about every girl whose future was sacrificed for her brother's potential. Elise read the note carefully. Your grandmother sounds like she was quite a woman. She was, and they buried her truth along with her money. I stood up and walked to the window. How long would it take to fact-check everything? A few days, maybe a week. She was already making notes. But Morgan, this will destroy them. Socially, professionally, everything. They destroyed themselves. I'm just turning on the lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Simon. Mum's asking questions about the safety deposit box. What should I say? I typed back. Tell her nothing. It's handled. There's something else, I told Elise. I have a social media contact who can amplify the story, make it impossible to ignore. Angela Wong? Elise raised an eyebrow. I follow her. She's got serious reach. And a personal interest in stories about family financial abuse. I sat back down. How soon can you start? I can have a draft by tomorrow evening, she paused. But, Morgan, once this goes live... I know, I stood up. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Back at my office, Alina was waiting. Did she take it? Hook, line and sinker. I poured us both coffee. Simon's on board too, believe it or not. Can you trust him? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Mom's number. Speaker, Alina mouthed. I nodded and answered. Morgan, the bank called about a safety deposit box. Mum's voice was shrill. What have you done? Nothing yet, but I found Grandmother's letter and the trust fund documents and everything else you tried to hide. Silence then. You wouldn't do this to us, to your family. Oh, I already did. I caught Alina's eye. Check your email in about 24 hours. Elise Tucker sends her regards. The newspaper girl, Morgan, please. Her voice cracked. We can talk about this. We can make it right. You had 20 years to make it right. Now you get to watch while the whole world learns what kind of parents you really are. I hung up as Dad's number started calling. Blocked it. That felt good, Alina said quietly. It's not about feeling good. I checked my email. Angela had already started drafting social posts. It's about justice. My phone lit up with a text from Elise. Stories taking shape. You might want to see this early draft. The headline made me catch my breath. The price of potential. How one family's gender bias destroyed 2 lives. Perfect, I texted back. Another call. Simon this time. I answered. They're freaking out, he said without preamble. Dad's talking about lawyers. Let him. Every legal action just adds another chapter to the story. Mum's crying, says you're killing her. Funny, I replied. She didn't worry about killing my dreams. After hanging up, I turned to Alina. Stay with me tonight, once this hits tomorrow. Already packed a bag. She hugged me tight. Are you ready for this? My phone buzzed again. A message from Mom. The church group is meeting tonight. Please don't do this to us. Please. I showed Alina the text. Their precious reputation. That's all they care about. And now they learn what it feels like to lose everything they value. I forwarded Elise's draft to Angela. Hit it from all angles. No mercy. Morgan. Alina touched my arm. Just remember who you are. I know exactly who I am. I smiled, watching the social media notifications start rolling in. I'm the daughter they never wanted, becoming the nightmare they always feared. The first preview post went live. A story of betrayal, justice, and the true cost of gender bias in families. Coming tomorrow. Mum's church group would have plenty to discuss tonight, and tomorrow they'd have even more. The story broke at 6 a.m. By noon, my parents' carefully constructed world was in flames. Your phone's blowing up, Alina said, watching notifications flood my screen. The article's gone viral. Elise had done a masterful job. The story wasn't just about my family, it was about systemic bias, about generational theft, about the quiet violence of expectations. Angela's social media campaign had turned it into a movement overnight. My office door burst open. Simon stumbled in, pale and shaking. Have you seen Dad? No. Why? He's drunk, really drunk. Showed up at my apartment an hour ago, ranting about lawsuits and family loyalty. He collapsed onto my couch. I think he might do something stupid. As if on cue, the elevator dinged. Dad's voice boomed through the reception area. Where is she? Sir, you can't... My assistant started. She's my daughter. I pressed the security button under my desk. Let him in. Dad staggered through the door, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. You think this is funny? Destroying our reputation for your petty revenge? Petty? I stayed seated. Is that what you call stealing my inheritance? We did everything for this family. No, I stood slowly. You did everything for Simon, and look how well that turned out. Simon flinched. Dad swung around to face him. You helped her do this. Your own parents. Stop it, Simon's voice cracked. Just stop. They needed to know the truth. The truth? Dad laughed bitterly. The truth is you're both ungrateful. Robert, Mum appeared in the doorway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Please, not like this. Security arrived, but I waved them back. This needed to happen. Mum, I said quietly, did you read the article? She nodded, tears streaming. I didn't think... That's the problem. You never thought about what you were doing to me, to both of us. I gestured at Simon. You crushed him with expectations while crushing me with dismissal. I wanted to protect you, she whispered. The world is so hard on women. So you made it harder? I pulled out Grandmother's note. She knew better. She tried to protect me from exactly this kind of thinking. Dad lunged for the paper, but Simon caught his arm. Don't! It's over, Dad. All of it. Nothing's over. Dad yanked free. I'll sue you for defamation. You'll what? I pressed a button on my desk phone. Miguel? Right here. His voice came through clearly. And recording, as requested. Dad deflated visibly. Mom sank into a chair. The article is fully documented, I continued. Every claim verified, every transaction tracked. Sue me and I'll add the court transcripts to the story. Why? Mum's voice was barely audible. Why like this? Because private shame wasn't enough. Because girls everywhere needed to see this story. Because... I paused, feeling the weight of 20 years. Because you needed to feel as exposed as I felt when you took my future away. Simon stepped forward. I'm moving out of the apartment, getting help for the gambling. Real help this time. With what money? Dad sneered. Mine, I said, on condition he gets therapy and job training. Real job training, not another start-up fantasy. You'd help him but destroy us? Mom asked. I'm helping him break free from you. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Elise. National networks picking up the story. Want to comment? Your church group called, Mom said suddenly. They're asking us to step down from the committee. The country club too, Dad muttered, and the business association. Actions have consequences, I replied, typing a quick yes to Elise. Isn't that what you always taught us? Security stepped forward again. This time I nodded. Please escort my father out. He needs to sleep it off. Morgan, Mum stood shakily. What happens now? I looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the scared woman beneath the controlling mother. Now you do what I had to do. You rebuild. From nothing. Without your reputation, without your social circle, without your illusions. I'll help them, Simon said quietly, if they let me do it my way this time. Dad struggled against the security guard. If I vanish, this whole thing becomes yours to clean up. No, Dad, I smiled coldly. If you vanish, it just becomes another chapter in the story. Your choice. They left, Dad with security, Mom trailing behind, Simon last, with one final glance back. Alina appeared with fresh coffee. You okay? No, I admitted, but I will be. My phone lit up again, this time with messages of support from women everywhere sharing their own stories. The truth, once unleashed, had taken on a life of its own. He's gone! Simon's voice shook over the phone. Dad disappeared last night, took his passport and some cash. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. Have you called the police? Mom did. They said since he left voluntarily. He paused. This isn't what I wanted, Morgan. Me neither. I checked my watch. Stay with Mom. I'll be there in 20. The house looked different in the morning light. Smaller, older, worn around the edges like Mom's face when she opened the door. He left this, she said, handing me a note. Dad's angry scrawl. You chose this, all of you. Classic, I muttered, making his choices everyone else's fault. Mom collapsed onto the couch. The police say there's nothing they can do. He's an adult. He wasn't coerced. He's running from the shame, Simon said from the kitchen doorway. Just like he taught us not to do. My phone buzzed. Elise, your story's trending #1 nationally. Major outlets want interviews. Not now, I texted back. I should have seen it coming, Mum whispered. He's been drinking more since the article, talking about moving abroad, starting fresh. With what money? I sat across from her. His accounts are frozen pending the trust fund investigation. He has had a secret account. She wouldn't meet my eyes. In the Caymans, from his consulting days. Simon swore under his breath. I just laughed. Of course he did. More secrets, more lies. I stood up. I'm calling Miguel. But before I could dial, Mom grabbed my hand. Wait, please, there's something you need to know first. She went to the study and returned with a thick envelope. Your grandmother's last letter, the one I should have given you years ago. My hands trembled as I opened it. The paper was yellowed, but her handwriting was clear. My dearest Morgan, if you're reading this, I've failed to protect you from their expectations. But I haven't failed to provide for you. The trust fund is only part of it. There's more. Property, investments, all in your name, all hidden where they can't touch it. Find Miguel Knight. He knows everything. Don't let them dim your light, my girl. You were always meant to shine brighter than their small minds could imagine. All my love, grandmother. Miguel knew. I looked at Mom. All this time. He was your grandmother's lawyer first. She made him promise to wait until you came looking. She wiped her eyes. We thought we knew better than her. We were so wrong. My phone rang. Miguel. Your father just tried to access the Cayman account, he said without preamble. It's been frozen, all of it. How much? Nearly $2 million, hidden from the divorce settlement with your grandmother. I looked at Mom. Did you know about this money too? She shook her head, but Simon stepped forward. I did. Dad made me promise not to tell. Said it was our emergency fund for when my big break came. Your big break? I laughed bitterly, while I worked minimum wage jobs to survive. My phone buzzed again. A news alert. Local business leader missing amid financial scandal. He'll come back, Mum said quietly, when he runs out of whatever cash he took. No, I stood up. He won't. Because there's nothing left for him here. No reputation to salvage, no son to prop up, no wife to control. Simon sat heavily on the couch. What do we do now? You? I turned to him. You get clean, really clean. There's a rehab center in Arizona, private, discreet. You leave tomorrow. Morgan. Non-negotiable. You want redemption? Earn it. I faced Mom next. The house is yours to live in, as my tenant. Market rate rent, no special treatment. She nodded slowly. And the trust fund money? Goes where grandmother intended, to a foundation helping girls pursue education without family interference. I checked my phone again. More interview requests, more stories pouring in from daughters who saw themselves in my story. I never wanted to hurt you, Mum whispered. But you did. And now? I gestured around the room. Now you get to rebuild, just like I did, from nothing. Simon stood up. I'll pack for rehab. Good. I handed him a business card. My assistant will arrange everything. As I turned to leave, Mom called out, Will we ever be a family again? I paused at the door, thinking of grandmother's letter, of all the daughters fighting battles like mine. We'll be something better, I said finally. We'll be honest. Outside, Alina was waiting in her car. How bad? Dad's gone. Simon's going to rehab. Mum's learning. She squeezed my hand. And you? I looked back at the house, the site of so many broken promises and fresh starts. I'm doing what grandmother wanted, I said. I'm shining. And that's how generational wealth becomes generational theft, I concluded, stepping away from the TED Talk podium to thunderous applause. Elise met me backstage, grinning. You killed it. The streaming numbers are insane. Good. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Simon. The more people hear this story, the fewer daughters have to live it. Speaking of daughters, Elise nodded toward the wings where Mom stood awkwardly, clutching her purse. She'd lost weight since Dad disappeared, but gained something else. Clarity, maybe. I didn't know you were coming, I said. Simon told me. He's doing well in the program. She twisted her hands. 90 days sober. I know. I get the weekly reports. An assistant appeared with water bottles. Ms. Morgan, Netflix is ready for your meeting. Give me a minute. I turned back to Mom. Why are you here? I watched your speech, her voice cracked, about how parents sometimes love their children in the wrong direction, about the damage good intentions can do. And And I saw myself, everything we did wrong, everything we... She stopped, collecting herself. The foundation you started, the one helping girls get education funding. I'd like to volunteer. I almost laughed. You want to help prevent what you did to me? I want to make something right, even if it's not our relationship. My phone buzzed. Simon again. This time I answered. Turn on CNN, he said without preamble. Elise was already pulling it up on her tablet. The headline made my stomach drop. Missing business executive found in Panama, arrested for financial fraud. Dad, I breathed. They caught him trying to access another hidden account, Simon said. There's more money, Morgan, so much more. Mum saw the headline and sat down hard. Robert, I have to go, I told Simon. The Netflix meeting. They want to make a documentary, Elise explained to Mum, about Morgan's story, about all the daughters' stories. Will you... Mum hesitated. Will you tell everything? Every last detail. I checked my makeup in a mirror. The truth doesn't need protection, Mum. It needs exposure. My assistant reappeared. They're waiting. Go, Elise said. I'll handle the press about Dad. I started to leave, but Mom caught my arm. I've been paying the rent, on time, every month. I know. And I've been reading the letters from the other daughters who write to your foundation. Their stories are my story, are your story. I gently removed her hand. Are you coming to Simon's graduation from the program next week? If I'm allowed. He wants you there. And I'll be there too. She nodded, tears starting. Morgan, I know we can never go back. No, I agreed. We can't. But maybe we can go forward, differently. My phone lit up with news alerts about Dad. The past was never really past, but the future was still unwritten. The foundation board meets on Thursdays, I said. If you're serious about volunteering, be there at 9. Don't be late. I won't, not this time. In the Netflix meeting, they wanted to know my motivation for exposure. Why go public? Why not just take the money and move on? I thought about grandmother's letter, about Mom at my speech, about Simon fighting for sobriety, about Dad running from his own reflection. Because silence is how they win, I said. Silence is how they keep daughters small and sons damaged and mothers complicit. And now? The producer asked. Now? I smiled, thinking of all the messages flooding my foundation's inbox. Now we make noise. We make change. We make sure no daughter ever has to beg for what should have been hers all along. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Alina. Saw your speech. Grandmother would be proud. I typed back. She knew. She always knew. Then I faced the Netflix team, ready to tell the story again. Because that's how change happens. One truth, one daughter, one family at a time. Not with a whisper, but with a roar. Let's begin, I said, sitting forward. Not with the money, but with a promise I made to myself 20 years ago. A promise about justice, about truth, and about the price of silence. They leaned in, cameras rolling, as I opened the folder labelled Henderson Family Matters, one final time. Not to relive the past, but to reshape the future. Some stories need to be told. Some silences need to be broken. Some daughters need to know they're not alone. This was just the beginning.